Yeah, I've been doing peer support for a number of years, probably about 15. And I got into it running my own peer program, somewhat like Craftsman Center, but was really interested in having some kind of crisis alternative. So that's been my interest for a long time. And talking to Tanya and others over the years, I realized the extent to which peer support has taken off in Toronto and Ontario, well, all over the place, but Ontario in particular. So I've been working with the Craftsman Center and other programs like that to really think about how to maintain the integrity of peer support and hopefully move into using that same philosophy to start to think about providing alternative crisis services so that the hospitals have it. There's an option besides the hospital.
So you see it fitting in with this continuum of mental health services and treatment approaches then?
I think it fits in with the treatment approaches. I think we have to be really careful because in the US and in lots of other places, peer support has come about very quickly and it's a commodity. So it tends to get absorbed into the system way of thinking as opposed to forcing the system to think in a new way some of the time. And so I think we have to be really careful of that. I guess what it fits in well with is community development, which, Tanya's always talked about that as well.
She's a champion.
She's a champion, and I hope that instead of fitting in better with services, that down the road we'll fit in much better with community development. Because it's a natural next step, not more services, but being just a participant in the community.
Could you help me understand just a little bit more what the term intentional means within this framework?
Yeah, sure. Well, peer support is, anybody does peer support with somebody that they've had a similar experience with. And I don't think there's any particular purpose. People just get together and commiserate or share ideas or whatever it is. I think the intentional part in the mental health peer support is to offer one another a different way of thinking about our experiences. Many of us have been sort of locked into thinking of ourselves as ill and as the whole identity. And I think when we get out of this service mentality with each other, when we just develop relationships that are, I guess I would use the word provocative, to challenge each other, to open up possibilities that didn't exist before. That's the intention. It's part of building a conversation that's energizing, that's educative, that's creating new ways of thinking. And not all, lots of peer support isn't intentional. And so it's sometimes good and sometimes not so good.
I see. Yeah, that's very interesting. What rings in my memory is about the role that placing expectations have on who you're with, and it sounds a little bit like that. When you're being intentional with somebody, you are there for a reason, and you can gently push people out of their comfort zone. If I got that right,
that's a really nice way of putting it. A lot of it has to do with comfort zone and sort of stretching that. But it's also the intention to come into it with your own self-awareness and to develop the skills to take a look at your own stuckness and your own patterns through the process of relating. And so that, evolving the relationships of both people are able to, push the edges of their comfort zone, and that's the foundation of the relationship. And, create opportunities for both people.
Is there elements of group work with this, like people working in groups, or is it always just like a one-to-one? I'm not sure about
That's a good question. Lots of people do groups, and people form all kinds of relationships so that people may start out in groups but make friendships and all kinds of other things and continue on doing it. But it works well just with people that are wanting to be in any kind of specific conversation that's going anywhere. So I guess it would be useful in groups as well as anywhere else.
Now Shery, you're here in Richmond Hill. You're here with the Craftsman Center's workshop. It's a week-long workshop. there's groups from all over the region, I take it, participating today, or they're outside the region too? Or?
They're outside the region. I'm not sure exactly where, because I don't know all the names of the towns.
Okay.
But I would say from all sort of central and eastern Ontario. Northern Ontario, that's right. So we've done this before. We did it last year, and people came from all over the place. And it's really nice because there's not a competition. There's a sense of we're all learning from each other. And that's not always true in workshops. You know, people come together from lots of regions and they're very sort of tight about what they know and how they want to defend it. This group is incredibly open, and I think, you know, Ontario has done a lot of peer support development stuff, you know, in various parts of the province. But yeah, it's a 5-day workshop, and in the best of all worlds, it would be sort of getting together once a week for a lot of weeks and doing a little bit at a time, because it's, you know, it's a whole new way of thinking for people, and it does push the edge, and it does create some discomfort. But because we travel to do this, it's impossible. I mean, we have to kind of do what we can do in 5 days. So people are tired, but they're working really hard, and it's, I mean, you just watch it unfold in front of you. It's just amazing.
So it sounds like very much the framework, if I can call it that, is really embodied right in the 5 days. People learn by doing.
Yeah, and by trying out some of the scenarios that they are familiar with, you know, that they're comfortable with in their own lives, and superimposing this style of being with each other onto it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, all I had to do was be honest, you know. It's these simple little things that develop, you know, good relationships. Sure. And I guess just to finish up on the intentional part, I think one of the things that differentiates us from other kinds of peer support is, or at least paid peer support, is that the intention is to focus on building a healthy and meaningful relationship, as opposed to the focus of service, which is for me to help you. And the focus is also on learning together, as opposed to helping, which assumes problems. And that to me is fundamentally different than other services. And it's hard to learn because we're helpers by nature.
We're so ingrained to that approach, and problem solvers extraordinaire. Yeah. We get in the way of some healthy practices, I think, in doing that.
Yeah, I think that's right. So it's sort of relearning how to think about
interesting
mutual relationships.
Wow. Okay, Shery, thanks very much for sharing your story with us, and I do wish you well in all the work ahead.
Thanks.
Okay.